Hi guys, welcome back to the 4 Degrees podcast with Precious, Yanila, Pooja and Philip. That's me. We talk about climate change, all things climate change, through the Climate Risk Lab at UCT that's tied to the African Center Climate and Development Initiative. I always get it wrong. I've always got it wrong.
African Climate Development Initiative.
Yeah. For like
ACDI.
2 years now, I've been getting it wrong every time.
Master's called ACDI Master.
Yeah, but it doesn't say African Climate Development Initiative.
Okay,
so, yeah. I think I'll suggest to change that. I'll talk to Mark.
Center?
Yeah, for development and initiatives.
Where will the climate go? Okay.
The climate is here to stay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely here to stay.
It's definitely here to stay. Today's a hot day.
It is. It's warm. It's quite warm today.
Yeah.
We have a high of a 29. It's warm because we're coming from spring.
Yeah.
So definitely 29 is warm until we get to 30s.
Yeah, exactly. And then we want to be back at 29. But yeah, it's important for us to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Drink enough, guys.
Stay hydrated, guys.
Yeah. How was your week since last week? What happened, Precious?
What has been happening since the last episode? I did go around Western Cape just to see things.
Oh, right.
So I went to the West Coast, but we were staying in St. Helena Bay. But it was really good. It was good. Went to the West Coast National Park for the first time ever. Yeah. Saw a couple of animals, not many as I would have expected, but...
Like, did you see zebras?
No, we saw I don't know if they're elands, but they're in that family, like an eland but we definitely did not see springboks. I wanted to see a springbok so bad. And then we saw ostrich, like a lot of ostrich. Do you call them ostriches? Or what is that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like ostrich, like
those big birds.
Yeah, those big birds that look like dinosaurs, but not really dinosaurs. Yeah. So yeah, how was your week?
It was great too. Yeah. It was less spectacular. I guess, but at least for the coming weekend, I'll be going to Prince Albert. That's in the Karoo.
Oh yeah, and you love the Karoo.
I do like it. And I will be having my second interview for my thesis. I'll be speaking to a conservation botanist who moved there. She was affiliated with UCT in the early 2000s, and then eventually moved to Prince Albert and started her own conservation project because the Karoo is under a lot of pressure from climate change. Yeah, so I'm very excited to do that. It'll be an early morning drive tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow's. Fine. I feel Friday is when the weekend starts. Friday morning. And we also just talked about before we started the episode. We talked about music. Right?
Yes, we did.
About Adele and other musicians. And then I realized we don't yet at the Climate Risk Lab talk about music and climate change.
Yeah, we haven't, and we should.
Yeah,
I think we should invite someone or actually do a little bit of digging, because I would think. There's a question that was thrown around one time at our meetings when I asked, what do you think climate change is going to do to music?
Oh.
And people talked about how it would be difficult to spend a whole week at Coachella when it's too hot.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But also, what does it mean for the instruments? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to dive into that and see what it means.
Yeah, please.
And say, actually, that's a fun topic. Yeah. Well, if I wasn't doing climate and health, I was going to do climate and music. Maybe not.
No, I think it's an interesting thing to think about. Also, if we were talking heat now, but extreme weather events can also disrupt any outdoor event, especially music festivals or even outdoor concerts. We don't have to directly dive into Coachella or Africa Burn for what it's worth. But any concert happening at the waterfront can be affected by an extreme weather event.
Yeah.
And that can become dangerous quite quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you might have plans. It might not necessarily be at your event that is too hot, but you might have had plans to actually go to even just an indoor thing, and then a hurricane comes.
Yeah, and that's what we also wanted to talk about today, right?
And then, yes.
Because
Melissa decides to knock the door.
Yeah. So, Precious, tell us what happened this week.
Oh, I don't. And
I'm sorry. I'm asking with a smile just because I'm asking you. This is it's a very serious topic.
It's actually devastating, and I was reading about it. The reason why I'm smiling is because we get to talk about these things on here, and we get to really tell someone or let it get to someone who would not have heard about it, but be able to actually know about these things. And we do the digging and the studying, and then we do the talking as well, which is great. So what happened with the Melissa hurricane? Another thing, side note, is I don't know why they get a few more names, but that's a story for another day.
I saying there should be a Precious eventually.
No, I don't know why hurricanes, an extreme weather event, is getting a woman's name. And then we had like Cyclone Chido in Shona. It's a woman's name. And I'm like, why? Why do we get women's names for hurricanes? But anyways, cyclone, it wasn't a cyclone, it's a hurricane.
I'm not going to say anything on that. But I think there's a rule to it.
Yeah, I think there is.
I know that in Europe many years ago there was a devastating storm which was called Lothar, like Lothar Matthäus. I don't know if you ever watched soccer in the 90s.
No.
Football. But there are men's names too.
Okay.
I think there's a rule to it, just to
okay.
It's straight. It's nothing. It's not a gender.
Just to clear that out. Okay, so Melissa is a hurricane category 5, which is actually the highest, I think.
It is, yeah.
And what started with this, it started as a tropical wave. So this happened in Carolina in the States, in the United States of America. And then it moved to Jamaica, and then it moved to Cuba. So what really started, it started as a tropical wave. So they are what they call an Atlantic hurricane season. So they get hurricanes because we have established, as we all know, that we'll get extreme weather events here and there. So we might have a hurricane season as the United States get to experience. And
other countries located on the western coast of the Atlantic.
Yeah. So they get to experience all those things. But this one in particular, the reason why we're going to talk about it now is how devastating and how strong and fast and quick it changed. So it started as a tropical wave, and then it became a storm. Before we know it, it was a category 3, and then it quickly moved to a category 5. Also how it was moving. So there is an eye, what they call the hurricane eye. It was as if it's moving west, and then before you know it, it's like moving north, straight for Jamaica, which is very vulnerable in terms of how they are ready to handle such an extreme event. And a lot of people died. From the last update I was reading, I think it was 117 people died. So many buildings were destructed, so many things. People lost a lot of lives, a lot of things, a lot of their lives, basically. And some might ask, then is it climate change? I mean, we get these hurricanes. We're in a hurricane season. So,
and that hurricane season, we call it hurricane season because it happens usually between August and November every year.
Yeah.
And it's an annual phenomenon. Right?
So, you know, like people asking, is it climate change? And then that's when we get to, which is also what we're going to touch on today, climate attribution, where we start getting to get a bit of what climate change played a role in an extreme event like a hurricane like this.
Yeah.
And so
that sounds exciting. Another word that I don't know what it means.
So we will always use the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change definitions, because that is the one that is used by the world, and that is the one that is fact-checked and everything. So I'm going to pull up the climate attribution definition from we call it the IPCC. So every time we're going to refer to an IPCC, it means the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. So they say it's a process of demonstrating that a detected climate change is consistent with estimated responses to human activities and is inconsistent with alternative explanations. So what they're basically saying is like we are trying to compare what we've observed and what we would deem natural. So we're in a hurricane season, yes, but the intensity of this hurricane, is it normal or is it influenced by climate change, which is anthropogenic climate change? Also, when we say climate change, usually it's like anthropogenic human-caused climate change. So that question is...
That's what anthropogenic means.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Human,
so that question,
human caused.
Yeah. So that is what a lot of people will be asking. Is it climate change? Is it not? And yeah.
Is it, Precious?
So
are we already there to say exactly?
Preliminary results, which is also the good thing about science and technology, that we get these things quick. The ocean where this wave passed by was actually...
The tropical storm was Hurricane 3 at that point. Right?
So. It was Hurricane 3. The ocean was actually 1.2 degrees warmer than it should have been every other year.
Based on the average of the past.
Yeah, based on the average.
X years.
Yeah. Right. It was 1.2 degrees warmer. And, you know, when we do this in primary school and you say that the warm air, the ocean warms, and then there's warm air rises, and then there's rain. So it's basically this tropical wave is doing its thing. It's going to bring a little bit of rain. It's going to bring much amount of rain, and then it gets like a push of warmth, and then it goes violent. And
so it basically feeds of the warmer oceans. Yeah. Because like higher warmth means higher energy storage, and as you said, there will be higher evaporation happening as well. So the storm will like fuel on that energy become stronger. Yeah. And now in layman's terms, and also will have a higher capacity to carry water, meaning that precipitation events will be more extreme. Yeah. So stronger winds and more precipitation.
Yeah, so that is what basically happened with this hurricane. So we can say it was going to happen, but the intensity and also the speed at which it moved from a storm to Category 3 to a Category 5 in just a few days, a few hours, is basically attributed to climate change. We can say this without even thinking too much about it, but it is climate change. And it's sad that we get to talk about this and then we say, then what do we do? And that's when I will pitch in a question to you, the importance of climate attribution, because then things have been distracted and we are seeing a little bit of climate change. We're seeing, not a little bit, we're seeing a signal of climate change to this distraction that happened. What does it mean for climate litigation then?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. Thank you, Precious.
Yeah. I'm like, let's just put it out there for the law, because I need someone I do need someone to tell me that I can do something about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do something about... When you say you can do something about this, there are like several angles. Of course, we can always, and we should be aiming.
We're already doing something about it
for mitigation, which means trying to reduce carbon emissions in our daily lives, but also working towards, broader policy change. Then there's the adaptation side and the loss and damage side that always comes in too. Like let's say after climate change induced extreme events, for example, like this one. I would say there are two major angles why attribution is important. On the one hand, it provides evidence, real life evidence of extreme events caused by climate change. So maybe there are even 3. So by running attribution studies, science just becomes more solid.
Yeah.
And allows us, or whoever works in the climate change space, to pursue policy and political agendas more credibly, and facilitate the introduction of higher mitigation aims, adaptation goals, such as early warning systems, for example, and of course loss and damage. And then the climate litigation part, I would say, comes in especially in the loss and damage part. So when we can attribute a certain event that causes a damage, say to someone's house, and then we can track it back either to a state, for example. Say again?
To an emitter, like a big emitter. Greenhouse gas
emitter. Yes, exactly. So two routes, exactly. So either a corporation or whoever, or a state, and those are 2 different pathways. You could, and that happened in the ICJ case that we discussed in the other episode. You could claim that the damage that you suffered from that extreme event is at least co-caused by government inaction to mitigate their carbon emissions or reduce their carbon emissions. Or you go even one step further and say, who are those emitters? Let's say a large fossil fuel company. Trace their emissions, if you will, calculate their contribution historically to carbon emissions, calculate, if you will, like their contribution to warming, climate change, and then filter it down. That's much more complicated. It is very complicated, but it's just one step to make things hopefully a bit easier. And of course, it creates a whole scenario that will hopefully make states and corporates take measures to not be targeted by litigation. So it could actually trigger more like ESG initiatives, actual mitigation, actual adaptation, fostered by perhaps even corporates. It's a long shot.
It's a long shot, but you also mentioned something about adaptation, and then you mentioned early warning systems.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why there's extreme events like this hurricane did a number on let's take, for example, Jamaica, which is vulnerable, is because, the warning that you get it 5 hours before the rain starts. When you could have potentially gotten it a week before, 5 days before, 3 days before, or a day before. I would say getting a warning quite earlier would help, move quite easy without panicking, without getting hurt. And we also economically does make sense, because now you're not making decisions out of like, we really need all this, and then you go into debt trying to put out a fire.
Like evacuation requires planning, requires infrastructure.
And it's I think it's one thing that we really need for a lot of countries who are very vulnerable to these events, an early warning system so that they can get to plan. The disaster management team can get to plan where are we going to put the people? What are they going to eat when we put them there? Where are they going to sleep? What do they need? What is required? Because now if you see the news, it's sad when you see people just holding whatever they could get out of their houses, running to a bus, and some kids might get lost because there is chaos. Everyone is trying to save their life, and it's a lot. But early warning systems, I think, are very important. And I just wanted to pull out this.
Another definition.
It's not a definition. No. It's definitely not a definition. But something that I saw on the news, on this hurricane that people were talking about. You know how we were going back and forth about, is it climate change, is it not? And one of these experts, climate change experts, actually just say that the important thing to understand about hurricanes in the warming world that we're in right now is that not all of them will be able to take advantage of the raised ceiling from ocean warming, but some of them will, and particularly this Melissa did take it. And when we have situations like this, where it happens near or over a populated area that is susceptible to major effects, the subsequent devastation will have been made worse. They already are susceptible, and then they go even more significantly worse, mainly by climate change. And I thought that everyone should hear this, because it then should tell you that a hurricane or a flood or an extreme heat wave might have been happening all these years, all your life, but it's going to be made worse by climate change. And how worse it can be is something that we really can't comprehend. Like, how can we get a Category 5 hurricane in a time that is a hurricane season, but then it's like, okay, we usually handle this.
Yeah, it's a very, I guess, maybe two comments to that.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. I think there were a lot of like moving parts around about this hurricane, and those jumps in a very short period of time. In this case, from Category 3 to Category 5, and what does that mean? The wind speeds within the hurricane. So sometimes you'll like refer to wind speeds of a hurricane. It's a bit confusing. They reached, in this case, up to 180 miles per hour, which is roughly 270 kilometers an hour.
No one even drives that fast.
No, especially not in a circle. No, Michael Schumacher.
Okay, I didn't think about the circle part. I just thought about
because that's exactly it. But the hurricane itself moved very, very slowly. In this case, towards Jamaica, only with a couple of kilometers an hour. Let's say roughly 9 or 10. So extreme high wind speeds within the hurricane, but slow progression, which then means that more rainfall will and wind will affect a smaller part of that land area where the hurricane makes landfall. So it stays on a specific plot of land longer, and the devastation will be just be increased. But yes, so this jump has happened a few times, or has been observed a few times over the past decades. But it's not entirely clear yet why it happens. Yeah. But I guess the assumption could be that it's tied to climate change, especially around higher water temperatures. And there's one figure I read that those 1.2 degrees of warming, actually with a probability of 500 to 800 times increase the likelihood of such like strong storms.
500 or 800.
And are very much attributable to climate change. So we'll likely see that more often. And the second part, what you mentioned, is also super important. It's about like who is actually susceptible to who is affected by climate change. And a lot of times it's the most vulnerable populations that will suffer the most, because they have generally a very low resilience, another term that we can probably discuss in a different episode.
Yes.
And then that, of course, brings into question, again, like who caused climate change, who's suffering most. What about the loss and damage fund that what we call developed nations still don't fund properly? A lot of knots to untie.
Yeah, but there we have the answer. Climate change definitely had a big part to play on this hurricane, and mainly because of climate attribution that we have right now. So at the end of the episode, there is going to be a picture of like a graph of from the IPCC summary for policymakers. It's usually to just make it look more real, like just not have all the numbers everywhere, but to make it look like what really do we mean when we say we're attributing? What does it mean if it was natural? What does it mean if it was natural plus human? And what does it mean with what we're observing? And that graph is going to come at the end of the episode, unfortunately. But this was really great to talk about this. Stay hydrated. It's warm in Cape Town.
Yeah.
If you're in Jamaica, I hope you're safe.
And anyway, in the Caribbean, I think the hurricane is currently passing through the Bahamas.
Yeah. I hope everyone is safe. And I would say watch the news, but also sometimes the news is depressing. But when you can get time to read or know about what your area is susceptible to, I think it's good to inform yourself on those things. To know that if you're in Cape Town right now, you could be susceptible to a heat wave because we're in the time for a heat wave. If in a hurricane season, then you're susceptible to heavy rainfall and strong winds and all of that, and what you can do to prepare yourself for that. Yeah. But most importantly, to know that climate change is real and to know that you can do something about it. And in this sense, you can do something about preparing. You can also do something about climate litigation, a long shot, but you can do something about that. You can also do something about resilience and adaptation.
And you can also study the graph that Precious just talked about.
You can look at the graph.
Ask us questions or comment, and we'll pick them up in one of our feedback episodes.
Definitely. We'll do a feedback episode where we actually do get questions from you guys, because we talk a lot about a lot of things. Yeah. Even what it means for everyday life. What does it mean? How do we live the climate change way in our lives? You might even ask, do you fly often? I'm just joking. But we might ask questions like that.
And we might be asked those questions.
Yes.
But that's for another day.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.